You remember from last video that a theme is a statement that an author is making about the world. It's their belief about the way the world works, whether that's society or some universal laws of nature or something about humankind. Now, the key thing to remember about that is that it's a belief. It's not a fact. So it's really important that we're able to identify themes in stories so that we can decide for ourselves whether we want to accept or agree with that belief. Take, for example, Cinderella. If you read that and aren't thinking about what you're reading, you might accept the theme that women need male saviors to help them out of trouble, and those male saviors tend to be rich and handsome and powerful. However, if you're a critical reader and you're able to identify that that's the theme, you can then think for yourself and realize that no, actually, women are able to help themselves overcome obstacles. They don't need some sort of external savior. So today we're going to look at one way of finding themes, and I'd like to call this the quick way. The quick way has you focusing on a few different aspects of a story. The protagonist, who is the hero of the story trying to accomplish something. The antagonist, who is the person or force that's preventing the hero from accomplishing their goal. And then the conflict and resolution between the two. The conflict is essentially the problem, and the resolution is what happens, how that problem is solved. Now, what you want to do for each of these things is you want to examine what each of these characters and the way they resolve their conflict represents in our real world, in the world outside of the novel or outside of the film. So take, for example, Harry Potter. He's our protagonist. And now we want to look at the characteristics of Harry Potter. What group or groups does he represent? Well, he's a young white boy in the UK of relative indeterminate wealth, social status, and political views and religion. In a sense, he's meant to embody every child. But what's key about him aren't the categories of society he represents, but the qualities that he represents. So, for example, when we think of Harry Potter, he is someone who supports the idea of loving other people, of forgiveness, of loyalty to friends, of perseverance, essentially purity. So that's what he represents for us. He's not just Harry Potter. Now we look at the antagonist, and that's obviously Voldemort, or he who shall not be named. Like Harry, Voldemort is of indeterminate social status, religion, etc. What's important about him, again, are those characteristics. He is the embodiment of pure evil, and we see that through his ruthlessness, his vengefulness, his desire to inflict pain or suffering on other people, and in a sense, this desire for a pure wizarding race. So he represents people like that in the world. Now let's look at their conflict and how it's resolved. Well, their conflict happens a number of times through the 7-novel series, whether it's Voldemort as Tom Ridley or one of Voldemort's assistants. Harry Potter overcomes Voldemort quite a bit. And in fact, he does overcome Voldemort at the very end. Now, what's important is that about that overcoming Voldemort, that resolution to the conflict, is how he does it. Harry Potter doesn't give up any of those characteristics that make him such a pure protagonist. He remains loyal to his friends, and it's through that perseverance and that love that he has for other people and other people have for him that he's finally able, with the help of others, to overcome this evil. So that's what happens in the novels. Now we want to think, what does that represent in the real world? And how does that reveal J.K. Rowling's view or belief about the way the world works, her theme? So we take the statement about Harry, our protagonist, and identify those qualities. Harry, who is basically good, overcomes, and here we insert the antagonist, Voldemort, who is basically evil, with, and this is how we look at, this is when we look at how the resolution comes about. So he overcomes him with courage, faith, hard work, and love. Now, in order to make it a theme, you just replace the specifics of the novel, in this case, Harry and Voldemort, with the groups that they represent. And you can see that here on the other side of the screen. So that statement becomes, those who are loyal and cherish love and friendship will overcome any amount of evil with courage, faith, hard work, and love. And that's a theme. Notice that it's not just about the characters in the story, but now it's actually about real people living in the real world. Now that you've identified that theme, you can judge for yourselves whether you think that's true or not. Regardless of whichever you decide, at the end of the day, you're thinking for yourself, and that's what's important. If you're interested in seeing a handout with this information, with more detailed information, check the description below this video and click on the link.